Welcome to Pigskins and Pageantry, a podcast dedicated to all things SEC football. My name is Wes, and I'd like to invite you to join me, Jessi, and Matt each week as we discuss last week's games, news from around the league, make predictions for the upcoming games, and much, much more. And as Matt's hand disappears into section 306, welcome everybody. It's Wes. It is official. College football is back. Week 0 is already finished up, and teams are heading into week 1, and we are heading into our 7th season, which just kind of blows my mind to say. If you're a returning listener, we greatly appreciate you. All three of us have regular jobs, so we enjoy a hiatus while college football isn't happening. So if anybody's wondering where we went, that's all that was, and we do that pretty much every year. So if you're new to the show, you probably already realized that we focused on SEC football, but just to summarize our show really quick, if you're new, each of us come from different fandoms, Jessi being Alabama, Matt being Tennessee, if you couldn't tell, and me, Wes, being Georgia. So we give each other a hard time good-naturedly, but overall we try to prove that three very different fandoms can come together, have a conversation without too much name-calling, and enjoy a few laughs in the process. Honestly, we just have fun, and I hope you as the listener will too. So anyway, now that we've said all that, let's start with you, Jessi. How have you been? How has summer treated you?
Summer has been busy, but lovely. I have put up the Alabama football wreath. So everything is official, and I am looking forward to this coming week. And no, I don't mind being out of the top 3, and I'll tell you why later.
When the wreath goes up, it's official. Matt, what's going on? How has your summer been? How's it going?
First off, I turned around twice and summer was over. I don't know what happened. Me and my wife are both teachers, so we got the summers off. We're like, and it's gone. It's like that South Park meme. It was pretty ridiculous. Aside from that, it was pretty good. We didn't go anywhere this summer. We just kind of hung around the house and hung out with the fur babies and waited for this day. It's finally here. It's football time.
I know, it's wild. I can't believe
the
it's already here.
Thank God.
Yeah. So we'll kind of summarize each team, kind of what they've been up to, and how the season outlook is, and that will be, I guess, our news segment. So let's do the news.
Here's the news.
All right, so let's go in reverse alphabetical order, which I think is kind of tradition. We'll start with good old Vandy. Last year, 5-7 overall, 2-6 in the SEC. Clark Lee's third year. Let's not forget they beat Florida and Kentucky last year, though. AJ Swan took over as starting quarterback as a true freshman last year, so there's some optimism there as he continues to develop. He looked pretty good against Hawaii, which has already happened in week 0 with 3 touchdowns for him. Passing. Defense doesn't have a ton of stars, but is getting more depth, it seems. So the question is, 5-7 last year, will the Commodores go bowling this season? Jessi, what do you think? Are they going to get that extra game or no?
Hey, I don't know. We're looking at this schedule, at least I am. I don't know, like, off the top of my head, they don't beat Tennessee. They don't beat Carolina. I don't know that they'll beat Auburn. Ole Miss for sure, no. Georgia, no. Florida, probably not this season. Mizzou, Kentucky, probably not this season. And honestly, I think they'll probably lose to Wake Forest. So I'm truly not confident. I am about as confident in them making a bowl game as I am in them finishing that stadium this month. So, not too confident.
That hurt.
Nice. What do you think, Matt?
It's like I said on my tweet that I was watching the Vanderbilt game the other night, and I tweeted out and said I think I like what they've done with the end zone. I think it looks real good. That's sarcasm. Yeah, Vandy is in that situation that Vanderbilt likes to stay in. We're a long way away from the James Franklin days of being competitive and all that stuff. They almost gave the game away last week against Hawaii. But Hawaii was able to kind of let that one get away from them by throwing a pick late in the 4th. But yeah, I think they're going to have to go on the road to Wake Forest. I think that's going to be a game that's going to be hard for them. They got to go on the road to UNLV again, probably another trouble game for them. And then they get into the SEC slate, and it's just ugly. At Ole Miss, at Florida, at Carolina, at Tennessee. that's a pretty tough road schedule. And I don't see it ending well for Vanderbilt. For the 3 Vanderbilt fans out there, I'm sorry. I think this is another year of y'all waiting for things to get better.
Yeah. Jessi, was it you that sent us that where they stormed the field, but it was in a perfect
Yes.
single file line?
Single file line. Yes, it was. It was the most
And they
Vanderbilt
still
thing I've
got
ever seen.
fined for it, though. Yeah.
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 Was that when they beat Kentucky last year, or was that Florida?
It's when they beat
That's
Florida.
Yeah,
It's
Florida.
when they beat Florida and they single filed out onto the field.
The most orderly field storming ever. So
I mean, everybody that was a player and coaching staff, trainer, anybody, they were off the field by the time like
Right.
10 students were on it. So
that's probably
no safety concerns.
Fielding at Georgia Tech would look like too.
Well, true.
They kind of had the same vibe, Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech. Maybe they should make their own conference.
There you go. I don't know.
Not out of the realm of possibility these days.
Especially with the way things are right now. You're right.
Yeah, we'll probably talk some more about conference realignment later. Let's get to Texas A&M, the Aggies last year, 5-7 overall, 2-6 in the SEC. Not saying anything, but they're same as Vandy. Just, that's got to not feel good as an Aggie fan. Jimbo Fisher's 6th year. A&M has all the resources, and the fan base is becoming more rabid by the second. After all, Northwestern had more players taken in the NFL draft than A&M did. And while that's not always a true indicator, the point remains that A&M should be pumping out quality developed players like clockwork. Enter Bobby Petrino as the offensive coordinator, and either Jimbo's going to look like a genius because of this hire, or we'll be watching sparks fly on the regular as big personalities clash. They'll hope for more big-time plays from sophomore Connor Wakeman, as a solid receiving core should help with that. Max Johnson's still there, though, so we'll see if any drama develops at the QB position. Devon Achane is gone, and they will look to super recruit Reuben Owens to maintain quality in the run game. So A&M's defense was number 1 against the pass last year, oddly enough, but it didn't really matter because they had the nation's worst run defense. So they will look to shore that up, and they should be able to, given the defensive recruits they've gotten in the past 2 years. Should be.
Well, they should have been able to last year.
Should be, yeah.
But that didn't work out.
After last year, there's really nowhere to go but up, right? What do you think, Matt?
This is one of the things I'm looking forward to most this season, is to see what sort of progression we've ended up with Jimbo Fisher, bringing a new OC, getting what I'm curious what kind of things are going to be produced by this particular offense. Let's remember, this is a team that was ranked 101st in scoring offense last year. There's only like 120 teams in the nation in I think FBS, so that's pretty abysmal. This was a team that could not do anything offensively. They couldn't really do much at all. And so bringing in Petrino is going to either fix this and Jimbo's going to look like a genius, or it's going to create even more trouble, and he may end up getting that buyout that we've been talking about for the past 5 years. I don't know which way the wind's going to blow on this. The SEC West is going to be really competitive this year. Auburn, I think, is going to have a bounce back year this year under Hugh Freeze. I know Jessi doesn't care much for that idea, but I think that's what's going to end up happening. Arkansas is not going to be a schlub. We know about, Bama's a known quality. And when you look at their East opponents, it's not, Carolina's going to be a dangerous team this year is what everybody keeps saying. And they got to go to Tennessee, and that's going to be a tough game, especially if it's a night game. So I think this is a situation where Jimbo, I think this is a make or break season for Jimbo. I think if they're able to compete in the SEC West, if they're able to get some points scored, if they're able to make the offense look better, then maybe he's okay. But I think if they come out and struggle like they did last season, then boosters with the big boots are going to start reaching for their checkbooks.
Yeah, I'm going to keep my popcorn ready for sure. What do you think, Jessi?
I think Jimbo Fisher, his seat is already hot before the season even begins. Bringing in Bobby Petrino is absolutely a cinematic move, and it is going to be fascinating. I am really anxious to see what t-shirts are going to be made, because surely there's some good content there that they can make a good tee out of. It's a very morally just weird, but on par for Jimbo. I think there's going to be some on the field antics. You're gonna see some clashing. They're big personalities, both of them. but it could very well be the offensive boost that they need. Last season, Petrino, even when they went back to Arkansas, kind of his homecoming-ish, he gave them a run for their money. So I think it could be very good offensively for a team that was just woof at best last year. But at the same time, you've got to make sure the personalities mesh. We've seen that in other coaches. When they don't mesh, you start to get some weird vibes in the locker room. You've got kids there, quite literally kids, that you're trying to make sure are falling in line. If you don't have an OC that's falling in line, it can make things a little contentious. But I think the big thing is for Jimbo Fisher, they've got to produce, because if we remember next year, it's not just producing against everybody in the SEC. They have to produce against Texas. Texas is the one that they are going to be recruiting against. They're going to have in-state rivalries. They've got to make sure that they're on par. And right now, Sarkisian is doing very well at Texas. And if Jimbo doesn't step it up, I have no doubt that the Texas A&M money will make sure that he's out.
Well, they made sure that he got there in the beginning, and they can make sure that he gets out. So
they had no problem cutting that check way back in 2000.
Well, let's see. He was this is what, his 6th year. So yeah, do that math. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, morally weird. I love it.
That could be the name of the episode.
Morally weird. Speaking of morally weird, the Tennessee Volunteers. No, I'm just kidding, Matt. I'm just giving you a hard time.
That's okay. I'm ready for it. Bring it on. Let's go.
Last year, 11-2 overall, 6-2 in the SEC. Josh Heupel's 3rd year. The Vols had their sights set high last year, and I know they didn't completely achieve what they wanted. But let's consider that Heupel's taken a program that was struggling around mid-tier, and last year they defeated Florida, which can be seen as a measuring stick of sorts for their season. And probably most importantly, they finally got the albatross off their neck and defeated Alabama in a thriller. So add to that an Orange Bowl victory over Clemson, and expectations are high. So offense has been fun to watch under Heupel, but can Joe Milton continue the prolific performances that Hendon Hooker turned in consistently last year? On top of that, can the defense improve to the point that the offense doesn't have to score on every possession, which, let's be honest, wasn't that much of a problem for the offense in most games last year anyway, but, could be a concern. Jessi, let's start with you, and then we'll give Matt the last word on his team. So,
I mean, I'm still upset, but it's fine. I'm not going to ever not be upset, if we're being honest with ourselves. I think Tennessee...
Was it the loss, or was it how it happened type of thing?
It was both.
Yeah.
It was everything. It was also being in the state of Tennessee when it happened, which is terrible.
Oh, right.
Just miserable. But yeah, the way it happened, all of it, just terrible. Everything's terrible. I'm in therapy. It's fine. But I'm looking at the Tennessee schedule, and I think based on what I'm seeing right now and how I'm projecting everybody to do mentally, I think Tennessee has a really good shot at having a wonderful season. Austin Peay, okay. Florida, we'll get there when we talk about Florida, but I think that's a win for Tennessee, even though it's in the swamp and it's a night game. UTSA, think you'll do fine. South Carolina might be a little bit tough. Who knows? I think A&M, again, it's tough to say, but if they're playing anywhere near where they were playing last year, A&M's an easy one. I think Kentucky you'll take care of. UConn, it's not basketball. You'll take care of them. Mizzou, easy peasy. Georgia will be tough, but I think Tennessee, depending on how Milton does, could give Georgia at least a struggle. And then obviously Vanderbilt doesn't even count, so it's fine. But I think so far, you look at the schedule, you're probably feeling pretty good as a Tennessee fan. I know Milton has got an arm, but we just got to make sure that he can handle the rest of it and he can be a leader and a game manager. So that's my only question. On the offensive side, defensively, same kind of thing that you said, Wes. Really got to see if they can step up and hold other teams' offenses, because it wasn't that strong and their offense really helped them out. But I mean, you look at that Bama game, we scored a ton. They've got to stop people on the other side of the ball.
All right, Matt, how we feeling?
I'm feeling great. If you take the pulse of all Twitter, I think most everybody is is pretty happy with where things are. When you look at the schedule, like you said, it is a bit tough in spots. Virginia, I think we're a 26-point favorite right now. I don't think that's going to be much of a game. That night game at Florida is going to tell the tale of how Tennessee season is going to go. If Tennessee comes out and beats them by 14 points, 21 points, 28 points, then I think we're going to be dangerous. I think we're going to be a team that people are going to have to really keep an eye out for. If we come out and lose or win by a touchdown, then I don't know. Maybe we'll have to wait and see. I think Carolina is going to be a paper tiger. I said that last year, and I meant it last year, and they caught us napping. But if you look at how they finished, I'm not confident that they're going to be that great this year. Not to mention the fact that I detest Beamer, but whatever. We won't get into that. The A&M game is going to be another one. At Bama is going to be tough because that's going to be a pretty highly ranked game if both teams come in undefeated.
We mad too.
Yeah, and there's going to be
Mad.
revenge on the mind there. And then let's not forget that, it's probably going to be a night game in Neyland against Georgia, which
Sure
could go one of two ways. I don't know how that's going to work out. But here's the part I am excited about. There's a lot of talk right now around Joe Milton, or as we like to call him, Bazooka Joe. So Joe Milton has a lot of hype around him at the moment because he like we said, the kid can chunk it. I think someone said that he did something the other day where he threw it like 92 yards or something like that. It's just ridiculous. The guy can throw it, but he can also make really good game time decisions and really good reads. He did that against Clemson, and granted, Clemson was a paper tiger, but Clemson, again, is not just somebody you just, brush your shoulders off and move on. So I'm thinking Milton's going to be pretty good. Not to mention when you look at the wide receiver core we got Brew McCoy coming back. We've got Ramel Keaton coming back. And then the breakout name for this year, I think it's going to be kind of like our lead one is that slot guy. And I think that's going to be Squirrel White this year. I think he's going to set all sorts of people on fire. And then the running back core is not bad either. Jalen Wright, Jabari Small. I think offensively, we're going to probably put up better numbers than we did last year. That's a tall order, but I think that might be what we're looking at. Defensively, we've added some folks in the transfer portal. We've added a couple things. There's been some development as far as, those upperclassmen getting more reps and getting more time to develop, getting in the weight room and whatnot. I've read a couple things. Danico Slaughter's supposed to be really nasty this year. And I just think that we're walking into a situation where we're potentially looking at a Tennessee team that will probably finish the regular season with one loss. I'm going to say we go 50-50 between Bama and Georgia, and potentially making it into the playoff with one loss is what I'm thinking right now. Now, again, remember, this is Tennessee football, and you know how the SEC can be. We could very well come out and go 7-5. So I'll take that with a grain of salt. But I'm pretty confident we're going to be, we'll solid 9-10. I'm hoping for 11 wins this season.
Well, here's a contentious thing that I hope we can put to rest is the phrase chunk it or is it chuck it?
I've always heard
what
either or.
Okay.
Let's just say chuck it. Did I say chunk?
You did.
Chunk it makes it sound like you're getting ready to puke.
Well, I say chunk it too.
Chuck.
Like, just chunk it. But I have heard
it should be chuck it, but I always say chunk it.
Yeah. Yeah, I say chunk it too. So that's three of us who kind of defaulted to chunk it.
I did not have getting into the etymology of a phrase on my bingo card for tonight.
I love it. No, I think it all kind of it's being silly. But going back to the discussion at hand, I think Joe Milton is where everything hinges, right? If he's matured and taken that next step as a player, then everything that you said, Matt, as far as maybe just the one loss, putting up more numbers than you did last year, I think all that stuff is very much within the realm of possibility. However, if he gets out there and we see a little bit like we saw a couple of years ago of kind of deer in the headlights, just overthrowing people and things like that, then that's going to be a problem. So, clearly they're seeing stuff in the practices and they're optimistic. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think they'll do well overall. So
I'm just glad we're competitive again. Because those first 5 years, 6 years, or however long we were doing the podcast where Tennessee was just dog crap awful. Those were not fun years for me.
You had he who must not be named as coach. So I had a couple of those actually.
I was gonna say which one.
I was gonna say you had a few.
The
of those.
Latest one.
Yeah.
Asparagus boy, as they refer to him online.
Asparagus.
All right, let's get to South Carolina. Last year, they were 8-5 overall, 4-4 in the SEC. This is Shane Beamer's third year. This will be Spencer Rattler's fifth season. And with that kind of experience in this league, he has the opportunity to do some good things, especially if he can cut down.
That guy's 33. He's had to have used up his eligibility at this point.
Right.
He's been playing football since 1968.
He's
Right.
the Hunter Renfro of like the SEC currently.
He really is.
Yeah. So if you can cut down on those interceptions, things are looking good. But a leading receiver, Antwain Wells, is back, and Trey Knox is an NFL-style tight end who transferred in from Arkansas. So some of the pieces are there. Juju McDowell will probably do the majority of the running this season. The defense wasn't the best last year, and they'll continue to kind of struggle this season probably with some people transferring out. But we'll kind of see. We'll watch that aspect closely as it'll probably be a challenge. So the question is, can South Carolina have another special season and continue to trend upwards? Matt, let's start with you this time. What do you think?
And this when we talk about Carolina, we run into the same problem when we talk about Missouri. It's so hard for me not to fixate on the things that I absolutely hate about certain people.
To be objective.
It's really hard for me to be objective when it comes to Carolina right now. And this is coming from the guy that historically likes Carolina, doesn't have anything bad to say about Carolina for the most part. However, I do think that last season was, I don't want to say a fluke because fluke's too strong, but I just feel like things lined up the right way for Carolina. I think this is a season where that particular dream comes to an end. And I'm sure the Carolina fans that are listening are probably cussing me out right now. But let's look at the schedule. So they got a couple of cupcakes to open up, although North Carolina may give them a run. But then they got to go to Georgia. That's going to be a really tough place to win football games. They got to come to Tennessee. I guarantee you somehow they will find a way to make that a night game in Neyland to make sure that there is no chance of not getting that revenge game back. They got to go. Then they got to play Florida, and then from there, the only other big hurdle they've got to worry about is Missouri. I feel, although Kentucky's at the tail end of the season, and there's still Clemson too. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. The fact of the matter is that Carolina is going to have their hands full. Will they be as good as they were last year? Maybe. Will they have the same success? I don't think so. I think we're gonna finally see that old Beamer Bolt's not all it's cracked up to be.
So,
but again, that's just my personal opinion.
Since we're here, let's pause just really quick because we kind of have examined the root cause why Jessi hates Jimbo Fisher. The different reasons behind that, the reasons of animosity. And for you, what is it about Beamer that just specifically just irks you? What is it?
Just cringy. It's just so cringe. All Beamer does is post cringe. That's all he does. And that's the reason why I don't like Drinky, because Drinky's like, he's just so awkward, and Beamer is too. And it's just, I don't know. Like, I look at Saban, and I detest the very ground that Nick Saban walks on for the most part. I feel the same way about Kirby Smart, but at least I look at them and go, okay, these guys, they're legit. It makes sense. But with like Drinky and with Beamer, it's like, who let the nerd in here? Like, it just bothers me. It bothers me, and that's a me thing. I'm working on myself. So just
it doesn't have to be rational. I'm just curious. Yeah,
that's really what it boils down to. Is they both remind me of Butch Jones. Oh, and I have a lot of unresolved trauma about Butch Jones.
You're triggered,
and I think that's probably what it is.
I got it. Jessi, what do you think about Carolina?
I mean, I'm kind of the opposite of Matt in that I like Carolina. I like Beaver Ball. I'm here for it. I think everything they post on social media is hilarious.
I love the Office references.
Yeah, if you have not watched their recent post of like them doing a recreation of the Office when they run past the speed thing, I'm obsessed. They also posted them putting rubber bands on a watermelon and then slowed it down. Again, I think it's really funny and I like it. It's something that, which is weird as a Bama fan, because if Bama did that, I'm like, oh my God, no, stop. We're not that way. But
because that's not expected of a high quality SEC team.
But I think it's really funny for them.
It is kind of funny though.
But no, again, I have liked what Coach Beamer's been doing over there, like that he's changing the locker room, he's changing the attitude around the program. I don't think North Carolina is going to be a snooze fest. They were very close to beating Oregon in the bowl game last year. So I think that's probably going to be a challenge. They're going to have to dust off, a little bit of cobwebs and start playing football again. So as an opener, I think that's going to be a pretty good test for South Carolina. Again, playing at Georgia is not going to be easy. Mississippi State is really, really a question mark for me. And I know we'll talk about it more when we get there. Playing at Tennessee is not going to be easy. Florida, another question mark for me, but I actually kind of like South Carolina against Florida, to be honest. And it's in Columbia, so I think they have a chance there. Mizzou, again, might be a good test for Carolina there. A&M, it's at A&M. So that's my only hesitation, is playing at Kyle Field is not an easy thing to do, even when they suck. And it's late enough in the season that Petrino might be able to do something with that offense by then and really start to turn it around. Texas A&M for me is a question mark that late in the season. Vandy should be easy. Jacksonville State, Kentucky's going to be a great test. I think these two programs are very much on par. And then Clemson's doing well in the ACC. So I'm not totally sure. I think they're going to have a lot of tests this season. And to me, it all boils down to how consistent Spencer Rattler can be, because we saw it last year, is in the moments where everyone was like, this guy is going to be trash, he did well. And then in the moments that you're like, surely he'll do fine, he did not.
So forget Grant Heisman candidate when he played Tennessee.
Exactly. So I think it boils down to his consistency and the defense's ability to make adjustments from last year. And if they're able to do that, they could be dangerous. If they're not, and they're still inconsistent, then I'd have to agree with Matt that it's not going to be the season it was last year, because people will start to expect what's going to happen. But if they can get that recipe right, the East might have them climbing on up, not to the top, but to the middle.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, I like where they are as a program right now. It's just some of those tests on the schedule, how are they going to respond to that? So let's move to the Ole Miss Rebels. Last year, 8-5 overall, 4-4 in the SEC. This is Lane Kiffin's fourth year. Lane has once again been master of the transfer portal on both sides of the ball. So the depth is there, and they're really hoping that Pete Golding will help the defense there.
Wild.
They have a stacked QB room with Jackson Dart, who was main one under center last year. Spencer Sanders, who almost took Oklahoma State to the CFP in 2021, Walker Howard from LSU, and Austin Simmons. To this point, I don't think anyone's officially been named, although some sources say that there is no question that Jackson Dart is QB1. So Quinshawn Judkins looks to have another fantastic year. Some transfers should plug the gaps at wide receiver. Defense was fairly solid last year, but the secondary will look to get some more turnovers. So question is, can Ole Miss overcome their difficult schedule, though? As you kind of look at the way things line up. They got a few easier ones at the beginning, and then kind of mid to late in the season is just a gauntlet. So, Jessi, let's start with you this time. What do you think about Ole Miss?
Ole Miss, proud of you, and honestly, very unexpected from Ole Miss. Historically, I don't necessarily attribute mental health to the state of Mississippi. And so good on you for making sure that your athletes are getting the mental health services that they need, and that you're making it a priority at the university. I think that's absolutely a class act move. I am super proud of them for doing that. And I hope that other programs follow suit. And if you haven't read into it, I would encourage you to see that the program they're building there in Ole Miss. So I am hating myself every day a little bit more for starting to get a soft spot for Lane Kiffin. And I truly don't know what to do about it. It feels weird. And
you
I
accept
don't
it like the rest of us have.
I hate it, but I love it. It's just, there's a war within me. I am going to call it. Watch out for Quinshawn Judkins. I think if he has an offense built around him like he should, he's going to be a Heisman candidate. And I know we hate to say it because the Heisman doesn't matter and it's stupid, but I really do think that he's someone to watch out for. As far as their schedule goes, Mercer, easy win. Tulane should be an easy win. Same with Georgia Tech. They're playing at Bama, which is going to be difficult, but I do think that it's going to be a really good test for Bama that early in the season. LSU is going to be another test. Is LSU actually back, as they say, or was it just a little bit of a fluke last year? So playing in Ole Miss, playing at the Grove, we'll see. That's going to be a good test for LSU against Ole Miss. Arkansas is going to be another tough one. Auburn, then they get a little reprieve with Vanderbilt. They're bringing A&M into their house, so it should be a little bit better. Georgia, I don't know. And then Monroe and Miss State. So I think it's going to be a tough, like that center gauntlet there for Ole Miss. But again, if they can make sure that they have a strong starter at QB, it's a consistent starter. It's somebody that can command and really be a game manager and actually get the ball where they need to go. Their defense can step up. Lane Kiffin's building a pretty decent program there. His players like him. He takes advantage of the transfer portal. Ole Miss is not somebody to sleep on at all.
Yeah. Matt, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Jesse's right on, especially calling Quinshon Judkins. I think he's going to have a big year. Let's remember, this is a kid that, he had over 1,500 yards on the ground last year. He averaged almost 6 yards a carry. So the cat can run, and I think he's going to have a big year, especially as he gets a little bit more comfortable with that offense and a little bit more used to the repetitions there. By the way, I want to shout out to whoever set the schedule for Ole Miss this year, because they're playing an old school SEC schedule.
Yep.
With Tulane, Georgia Tech, and everybody else on there. It's like the SEC in 1926. I love it. Again, Lane Kiffin continues to show us that he can go out and he can get players. It's gonna be very interesting to see how those new transfers fit into the system, and if Ole Miss is going to be able to compete with Bama and LSU for the SEC West. I think they've got a good chance of it. But again, like we've been talking about, that's a pretty rough schedule. Especially when you get to that end of September up through November, it's a bit rough. But again, Lane has shown that he can get by. Will they be like complete blowouts here? No, they'll scrape by. But I think Ole Miss. I agree with Jesse. I think Ole Miss is going to be that dark horse candidate of the SEC West this year.
Yeah, this is tough because I really like where Ole Miss is as a program, but I feel like that schedule, I just think that they're going to probably be about the same as they were last year record wise. The games might look a little bit different, but it's just that's brutal. Like I said, right there in the middle, especially.
It's a true test of a team. I was talking about it today with my boyfriend. He's, he went to North Texas, so football was not like huge for him. He played baseball and really trying to just baptize him in the SEC. And he had a lot of questions about it. And we were talking about, how dominant the SEC is, because he hears me make fun of other conferences all the time and say, well, that doesn't matter. They play they play in the Pac-12. It doesn't matter. And
which may not actually matter anyway at this point.
It doesn't matter anywhere anyways. Nothing matters. The only thing that matters is the Big Ten and the SEC. But I was talking about it and saying how, everybody always said, well, the SEC thinks they're so good, but they don't play anybody and And then we got to 2020 and we all had to play each other. And it was like, oh gosh. And we were really able to see who was the best and who was kind of maybe mid-tier. And I was showing him, looking at the backlog since 2000 to the past 22 national championships, an SEC team has won 15 out of 22, which is insane for a conference. And we were just kind of going back and forth on that. But a schedule like Ole Miss has right now is exactly what you want if you're able to win it, because then there's no doubt if you get into that playoff spot that you should be there.
Right.
That's what you should want as a premier program.
And hopefully without too much attrition, because those are going to be some physical games too.
Super physical.
So
yep.
Let's talk about Missouri. The Tigers last year 6-7 overall, 3-5 in the SEC. Eli Drinkwitz's fourth year, he's gone 17-19 with no bowl wins. I'm not laughing at Eli. I'm laughing at Matt's commentary over there.
I'm laughing at Eli.
Mizzou's fan base is becoming a bit impatient, I believe, with that. They have a new offensive coordinator in Kirby Moore, who held the same position at Fresno State. QB's situation seems to be set with Brady Cook, according to sources, who is returning. But they also have Jake Garcia coming in from Miami and a redshirt freshman, Sam Horn. So we'll see if anything develops there. Wide receivers still pretty solid, and Cody Schrader and Nathaniel Pete will get the majority of touches at running back. The defense that was fourth in the SEC in total defense will likely be just as good, if not better, this year. Will Mizzou be able to put enough points on the board to surprise some people this year? Now, look, I'm not forgetting that they almost surprised Georgia last year, which was a legit thing. It was pretty close. It was touch and go there. Matt, let's start with you. What do you think? He's just shaking his head.
Nope. Ain't happening. Guys, let's go back and look at Drinky's little coaching record of the last 3 years. His first season in 2020, when we were just all SEC teams in 2020, he went 5-5. Okay. 2 years ago, he went 6-7. He did make a bowl game, but he lost it. And then last year, like we said, they went 6-7 and also lost their bowl game. Drinky's seat has to be scorching hot. And when you look at the schedule, it's not doing him any favors. Now it opens up okay. South Dakota, who I didn't even know had a football team. Okay. Somebody needs to look up who their mascot is because I'm curious. If it's not a Miner, I'm going to be upset. Middle Tennessee, Kansas State could be a tough game for him. Memphis could be a tough game for him. Vanderbilt's not going to be an issue, I don't think. But then it gets incredibly nasty. Starting in October, it is just the season of discontent versus LSU. At Kentucky, versus Carolina, at Georgia, versus Tennessee, versus Florida, at Arkansas to round out the season. That's a nasty stint in October and November, and I don't think Drinky's going to live through it. I think Drinky probably gets the boot. Oh, I'm going to say somewhere around November.
Oh, you don't even think he lasts the season?
I think this is it. I think this is the season, and I think that he gets the boot right at the end of November, or sorry, the middle of November. I think right around the Tennessee Florida games when he's gone.
But in my question, and this is what I was thinking about when I was looking at Mizzou, what are the expectations at Mizzou? Because if you look at somewhere like an A&M, in Auburn, high expectations. A Tennessee, no patience, none at all. What is the patience level at Mizzou? Because I don't actually know.
I think it's certainly a longer fuse. But I asked the same question last year. You remember when was it Auburn? I can't remember what game that was. It was just ugly, an ugly way to lose a game. And at that point, I thought, is this just the expectation? Are they okay with this at this point?
Because like, who's their big rival that it's like, man, as long as you beat so and so, you're in. Arkansas, like with Auburn, as long as you beat Alabama, you're okay.
I guess, yes. But even that rivalry is kind of manufactured, isn't it? I don't know how. I mean, obviously proximity, but
Matt, I did put in the chat the picture of the South Dakota mascot. It is a coyote, which looks mildly like a little bit of
Charlie,
a
right?
Wildly coyote.
Charlie Coyote.
But, by the way, guys, I do want to bring back the fact that Missouri had Barry Odom before they went and got Drinkwitz, and they canned Barry Odom after 4 years of going, 5-5, 5-6.
I honestly thought the teams under Barry Odom were better.
I did too.
I agree.
I did too.
That their defenses were better, if I remember correctly. Weren't they like a top 15, top 20 defense every year under Odom? So I mean, I don't foresee. Maybe I'm just making. I don't know. Maybe I'm just making castles in the sky here. I don't see it happening. I don't. I think
I agree. I mean, I don't know that he gets fired mid-season because I don't know who they. I mean, I guess they'll just put an interim coach, but like, is that better, or do they just sit and wait to the end of the season to see who's available?
Yes,
I'm not sure,
but who's hanging around?
Yeah, I don't know that they beat Kansas State. I don't know that they beat Memphis, to be honest. Vandy, they could probably handle, but I believe last year it was a little touch and go.
It was touch and go too, yeah. By the way, guys, I went back and looked. Drinkwitz did just sign a contract extension to pay him through 2027. So maybe I'm being a bit aggressive there, but
That's right.
still,
Yeah.
they're paying him $6 million a year to run that program.
Of course, we say all this. They almost beat us last year, so I don't know. So, but that was one of those weird games where I kept thinking the whole time I'm watching, like, surely Georgia's going to kick things into gear, right?
And
And after halftime, it was like, okay, well, surely in the second half they're going to do it, right? And then, good grief, if they didn't wait till the absolute last second to
when y'all played
do
Kent
it.
State, it was like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah.
But with Mizzou, I don't think they beat LSU. I don't think they beat Kentucky, and they're playing in Kentucky. I don't know that they beat Carolina. They definitely don't beat Georgia. They definitely don't beat Tennessee, Florida, and I don't think they beat Arkansas. I do not think it's a good season for the Tigers. And if you are part of the Mizzou Tiger hopeful, are you okay with this extension? Because I wouldn't be. And what are your expectations? What is good enough to you on a season?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Well, time will tell on that one. Let's go to the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Last year, 9-4 overall, 4-4 in the SEC. This will be Zach Arnett's first year after only coaching in the bowl game last year. Obviously, last year was a rough one for everyone with the passing of Mike Leach, and it's still weird to discuss such an amazing personality like him in the past tense. But in terms of the team, there's no replacing his offensive mind, though, right? Zach Arnett's a defensive coach, so we expect his defenses to be good, but honestly, we don't know what the offense is really going to look like. Not yet, anyway. Kevin Barbay is coming in as OC after 1 year as OC at App State. Under his play calling, App State used the ground game a lot more and also threw the ball downfield a lot more than State has. Mike Wright transferred from Vanderbilt, so some think he might fit the system a little bit better than Will Rogers. But I think they kind of figure it's still Rogers' job to lose at this point. Receivers should be pretty good still, and basically the whole offensive line is returning, so that should help. Seems like there will be a consistent rotation of good running backs as well. Again, I expect the defense to improve under a defensive-minded coach, but how will Mississippi State look different this year? What do you think, Jessi? What's your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, we're going to see a completely new offensive style after the devastating loss for honestly any football fan of Coach Mike Leach. Also, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they had also lost a player last year. So it was just a really hard season over there in Starkville. But you're going to see growing pains because everybody that's there was recruited by Mike Leach. They were recruited to play in an air raid offense. They were recruited to play under him. And now you have a completely different style coming in, a completely different coaching staff, and one that they weren't expecting. It's not like, they lost every game and they knew that their coach was going to be out. Nobody expected that sudden loss of the coach. So it's going to be a lot like when Mike actually came into Starkville and was bringing a new offense, and it wasn't with the guys he had recruited. There's growing pains. There's going to be growing pains in the locker room. There's grief there. You have to add that entirely new layer of these guys, these kids experiencing traumatic grief. And again, you've got transfers coming in, so there's going to be a little bit of who wins, who's going to be starting. I think Rogers will start, but whether or not he adapts to this offensive style, I'm not sure. I think we're going to see growing pains all around. Mississippi State for me is a really big question mark, and one that makes me really sad.
Agreed. Matt?
Yeah, I don't, it's kind of hard to get over the fact that Mike Leach isn't with us anymore. We spent, especially on this podcast, the last 7 years, we spent a lot of time, even when he wasn't in the SEC, back when he was with what's left of the Pac-12. We talked about him all the time. He always ended up on the show. As far as this rebuild's going to go, I think it's going to be tough sledding for Mississippi State. They did, if I remember correctly, they wrapped up the very end of last season with a pretty big win. I can't remember if it was their bowl game that they, and I think they,
it was
they
a
had
wild
big
finish
behind. It was a pretty nutso end of the game. And they got something to build off of there, but it's just, there's a lot of teams on this schedule that could be really hard to take over. And that's LSU, I think Carolina probably will give them a little bit of trouble, although I've made my reservations about Carolina. Bama's going to be a problem. Arkansas is going to be a problem. I think Auburn's going to be a problem for everybody pretty quick. A&M, I don't foresee this going real well for the Bulldogs this time of year. But again, we've been wrong before. I guess we'll have to wait and see. That's why we don't play them on paper.
Yeah. I expect their defense to kind of step it up, but big question marks on offense. Let's move to the LSU Tigers. Last year, 10-4 overall, 6-3 in the SEC. This is Brian Kelly's second year. LSU surprised everyone and represented the West last year in Brian Kelly's first year as head coach. Jaden Daniels is a fifth-year starter and had a great season last year, throwing for 2,900 yards, 17 touchdowns, and only 3 picks. He's bulked up this year, and hopefully that will help him stay healthy in a league that's known for its physicality. Daniels ran effectively last year, but they really need the other running backs to get involved in order to improve. And they'll look to Josh Williams, Noah Cain, and Notre Dame transfer Logan Diggs to do just that. Malik Neighbors will likely be the go-to receiver with many other solid options as well. Defense will likely be solid with Harold Perkins making a case as the best linebacker in college football. Will LSU boost its ahead of schedule rebuild that we talked about last year to even greater heights? LSU fans were overwhelmingly confident with the success that their team managed to have last year. So will the Tigers continue in the right direction? Matt, what do you think?
I'm not sure. We all know that Brian Kelly can coach. He wouldn't be in the position he's in if he couldn't somewhat coach. But looking at the schedule, they don't really have it that tough. They got a road game against Mississippi State in the middle of September. They got to go to Ole Miss, and then they don't really play another quality opponent. Again, keeping out the fact that Missouri and Auburn, I don't think they're going to be on that level. But they don't play like anybody super tough until Bama the beginning of November. And then from there, it's Florida, Georgia State, and then A&M, who's the question mark for us too. This is a winnable schedule. I think you're potentially looking at a schedule where they could run through most of these teams without really having to break too much of a sweat. So I think the schedule is favorable. Now, is this an LSU team that's going to have the same success as last year? Perhaps. Adding some people from the portal, especially it sounds like Brian Kelly conned one of his kids from Notre Dame to come down. Bringing those into the fold, that might boost them a little bit, but I think we're going to see similar things that we saw last season. They'll probably drop that game to Bama. I have a sneaking suspicion there's probably another loss in there somewhere, because let's remember this is a team that ran into Tennessee and got boat raced in their own backyard last season. So I think that we could potentially see that at some point with somebody, maybe A&M by the end of the season if A&M's got their act together. So I'm thinking they'll be in competition for the SEC West, but I don't see them winning the conference, which I'm sure the LSU fans are just livid about me saying, but that's just my take.
You should wait for the acronyms. Jessi, what do you think?
They're coming in.
Again, I'm still upset. It's fine. It's fine. No, I would have to agree a little bit with Matt. I think the beginning of the schedule is pretty winnable if you're LSU, but I truly think that once they hit Ole Miss and they have to go to Oxford, that's going to be a big test for them. I don't know that they win against Ole Miss. For me, I would pick Ole Miss. They win against Missouri. Auburn's going to be a question mark, but they are playing them at home, and we know that it's very, very hard to play in Death Valley. They're playing Army. That's a joke. But the game to watch, I'm saying the impact game of the season for, honestly, probably the entire West is Bama LSU. And we get them in Tuscaloosa, and we are going to be mad after falling to them in overtime by 1 point in Baton Rouge. It was ridiculous. So I think that one's going to be the big one to watch. And it's one that's really going to be telling of the season. You couple that with potentially a loss at Ole Miss. I think they take care of Florida. They obviously take care of Georgia State. They're not playing A&M at Kyle Field, so they should be able to take it there. But LSU for me is, again, I'm just not sure. Part of me thinks that they're not going to continue to build. They're probably going to be on par last year, but on par last year was also able to beat Bama. So that was also really bad coaching decisions. I digress. I will say another person to watch out for. I know the Heisman is stupid. I agree, but I would watch out for Jaden Daniels here. I think he's a really successful player. He was really impressive. If they can keep him healthy, he's somebody to watch out for. But I would also, for Brian Kelly, who is 100% not listening, I hope that the coaching staff at LSU is really cognizant of Jaden Daniels, of his well-being, because last year it was really disappointing to me to see that they pushed him that far when he was not at 100%. And it's not worth risking an athlete's well-being and potentially their entire career just to win some ball games. So that's my take. I'm sure LSU hates me. It's mutual.
To be fair, Brian Kelly has never been shy about the well-being of people.
That's true.
Hey, that's his family you're talking about there.
Family.
And anyway, I don't know. It's tough because I obviously saw them look to be ahead of schedule last year. It did very much look like that, and I have no doubt that they'll continue to kind of push forward this year. Honestly, there are some tests in there. Don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of very winnable games on their schedule too. I think that sets up nicely. We'll kind of get an idea against Florida State. These are two teams that have had their issues lately, but have been both kind of resurgent lately. So
Florida State's apparently supposed to be a dark horse pick to make the playoffs.
That's what everybody's calling for.
Yeah,
I think
they're in a rebuild year, but
they're like number 8 in the AP right now. That's crazy.
Are they that high?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guarantee that. Of course, they're higher in Tennessee. I'm still bitter about that. 15.
All right. Well, let's talk about the Kentucky Wildcats. Last year, 7-6 overall, 3-5 in the SEC. This is Mark Stoops' 11th year. With Will Levis gone, it seems like Devin Leary, the transfer from NC State, will be the starting quarterback.
Wes, just to cut in, because you said Will Levis, he just signed a endorsement deal with Hellman's.
As he should. If there is any product
in the press conference, just the most egregious amount of mayonnaise in a coffee cup.
I love it. It's disgusting, and I wouldn't drink it, but
Absolutely
I think
disgusting.
It's hilarious.
And sir, be better. Choose Dukes at least. Come on.
No, he's got a point. Hellman's is better than Dukes. Dukes is garbage. Dukes is trash.
You did not just say that.
I went there. Dukes is trash.
Honestly, Matt, I can get over a lot of things.
Look, I'm just telling you,
But
I've
mayonnaise?
had Dukes mayonnaise. I've had Dukes mayonnaise. It's got like this weird spicy stuff to it. Like, it's mayonnaise. I never really all that.
I'm upset. I'm upset that I can get past you being a Tennessee fan, but you hating on Dukes.
You draw the line at
I draw the line, sir.
I also learned that Matt has a sensitive palate tonight too.
I don't have a sensitive palate. It's just it
spicy mayonnaise.
Good. It's not like the extra vinegar in it or something. I don't know what it is about Dukes, but it's not as good.
I love it.
I'm not even dignifying that response.
You know what the jingle is. Bring out the Hellmans. You bring out the best.
Oh.
Ew.
I didn't know, but you just told it to me, so now
I
do know.
At least agree that Miracle Whip is trash.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. A Miracle Whip is
Thank you.
I bet you Drinky puts Miracle Whip on his bologna and cheese sandwiches.
Yeah. It's not great.
Now we've come off the rails.
It's not great. No. This is how it should be on this show. So
the great mayonnaise debate.
Yes. So yeah, the starting quarterback probably going to be Devin Leary from the transfer from NC State, and his offensive line going to have to do better than it did last year in order for him to succeed. Another one gone. It's Chris Rodriguez. He's gone. So they're hoping Vanderbilt transfer Ray Davis will fill that gap. But again, line's going to have to make some space for that to happen. Last year, the defense carried the team at times, and though they've lost some players to the transfer portal, they've also plugged a few gaps as well. So expectation is that the defense will be fine for Kentucky. So what are your expectations for Kentucky this year, Jessi?
I actually think Kentucky is a little bit of a dark horse. And we talked about this. The three of us were guesting on another podcast last week, and we talked about dark horses. And I picked Kentucky. I think with Levis now in the NFL, they, like you mentioned, they were able to bring in the North Carolina State transfer and Devin Leary. And even though Leary missed half of the season with an injury, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the country in 2021. He threw for 3,433 yards and 35 touchdowns with only 5 interceptions while completing 65.7 of his attempts. At Kentucky, he has a chance, I think, to really flourish in this program at the quarterback position because they have offensive coordinator Liam Cohen returning after a very short stint in the NFL. And Cohen is a really big upgrade, I think, over Rich Scangarello. And with Leary, he may be a better fit in this system than Levis was in 2021. And I think he's pretty accurate. And we'll see. They have the benefit of a little bit of depth at the receiver and running back position. So I would say, couple that with having Ray Davis, a running back transfer from Vanderbilt. Kentucky's kind of putting an arsenal together of weapons, and they may be able to do something in the East. We'll see. But I'm kind of here for it, and I hope they upset a couple people.
Does Devin Leary eat bananas with the peel on? So that's one thing I want to know.
Only serial killers do that in Will Levis, who we don't know if he's not.
Yeah.
Matt, what do you think?
I'm going to temper my expectations a little bit. I think losing Levis is probably going to hurt a little bit. Granted, Levis at times looked very inconsistent last year. We talked about that a lot on the podcast last year. I just don't foresee, like, their schedule lends itself for them to have a pretty good run. They've got their out of conference stuff is easy. Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron, Louisville hasn't been relevant since like 2018, 2017, whenever Lamar, what's his name?
Jackson.
Thank you. When Lamar Jackson was there. So I don't think their out of conference stuff is going to be anything rough. Their in conference schedule is they get Florida at home. That's a benefit for them. It'll probably be a night game at Kroger Field.
Oh, for sure.
They got to go to Vanderbilt. They got to go to Georgia. That's going to be tough. They get Missouri at home. They get Tennessee at home. They get Bama at home. Does that mean they'll win those games? No. Does that mean they have a little bit more of a leg up comparatively? A little bit, yeah. So I think Kentucky is looking at a situation where Stoops does what Stoops does. He's going to win some games that he should have no business winning. He's going to upset some people. And I think Kentucky, finishes maybe third in the SEC East this year, maybe fourth if Carolina's better than we think they are.
Stoops will have a job next year.
Yeah.
He's meeting expectations. He's safe at Kentucky.
He's also a master at taking a team where, let's face it, recruiting isn't the easiest. I mean, it's not the worst, but it's not the easiest either. But he's become really skilled at the transfer portal and can plug those gaps as need be. So, it's interesting to follow for them. So, let's move to Georgia Bulldogs last year. 15-0 overall, 8-0 in the SEC. Kirby Smart's 8th year. Another good recruiting class is Georgia in a new spot, but with 9th year senior Stetson Bennett finally moving on. I'm sorry.
By the way, he's having a blast in the NFL. I don't know if y'all saw his preseason game the other day. It was rough. It was rough. I think he threw like 4 picks. I was
to say it was just crazy because I know
week one he did okay.
I was saying one of the games he did pretty well.
He was the only one to do anything, and then now it's like, that's the Stetson we know.
This past week, it was bad.
Maybe he got a little overconfident and decided he'd just sling it, and you can't really do that in the NFL unless you're Brett Favre. So, anyway, but new/old offensive coordinator Mike Bobo will have a decision to make at quarterback, although it seems that he really doesn't. It seems like Carson Beck is the guy. And with 5-star sophomore Brock Vandegrift and 4-star redshirt freshman Gunnar Stockton sitting there, we'll see what they do. That's going to be definitely a management of not only the position but of egos for Kirby Smart, as seems to be a conversation we have a lot on this show. Offensive line was key, and it will remain largely intact. Dejon Edwards, Kendall Milton, and Branson Robinson will be running backs that'll be featured. Dominic Lovett, who was a star receiver at Mizzou, is coming over, and so is Ra Thomas from Mississippi State. So, yeah, I know, right? So, wide receiver should be pretty good. Them added to the current receiving core should make for some good options for Carson Beck. The defense should still be one of the best with top recruits coming in. Some of them untested, but for me, kind of with Kirby Smart, Will Muschamp, and Glenn Schumann putting their heads together on defense, I'm pretty encouraged by that. Let's not get to the three-peat talk just yet, but the schedule does set up nicely.
Drink the Kool-Aid, Wes.
No,
Drink the Kool-Aid.
Well, the schedule does set up nicely, especially after they took away Oklahoma for game 1 since joining the conference next year.
Funny how that worked, huh?
Yeah, well, it actually hurts us in terms of strength of schedule, but the question is, will Georgia be able to avoid attrition throughout the year? And perhaps more importantly, how will they avoid apathy, which, as an Alabama fan, Jessi, is a constant struggle that Saban has been going through for years and years. How do you get them to not be apathetic about things and get satisfied? Matt, what do you think?
I just looking at the schedule, I think, and I complained about this last year, and then Georgia turned Tennessee inside out. Although 2 scores isn't turned inside out too bad, but looking at the schedule, it's just soft. There's nothing here like that's on the same level as UGA, UT Martin, Ball State, Carolina, and maybe the first 2 quarters. I don't foresee it going any further than that. UAB, Auburn, unless Hugh Freeze creates some sort of monster out there on the plains. I don't foresee that being a game. Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Florida, those are teams that aren't going to come close. Missouri's not going to come close. That Georgia doesn't have a real opponent until you get to November 11th against LSU or against Ole Miss, excuse me. And then you got the game next week against Tennessee, which, by the way, I don't understand why Tennessee and Georgia are playing this so late in the year.
Right.
Usually that is like a week 3, week 4 matchup. That's like the beginning of like end of September, beginning October matchup. But whatever, I'm here for it. If both teams go into this game undefeated, it's going to be nuts, which probably won't happen. But one can hope. And it's just, I don't understand how Georgia always seems to end up with these really like deep season friendly runs where they don't have a whole lot of competition until the end of the season. It just seems like the last 4 or 5 years has been cupcake, decent team, hard team, cupcake, hard team, and then you're at the end of the season.
Are you okay, Matt? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm done now.
You just sound really angry. No, I'm just kidding. Jessi,
I am angry. I hate Kirby Smart. I hate everything associated with the University of Georgia. The only damn thing, excuse me, Mom, the only dang thing about the University of Georgia that I don't absolutely detest is you, Wes. You're it.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. And you're probably used to Georgia fans when you talk about the strength of schedule, just, imploding and being angry when you say, oh, well, that's not true. But, the fact is I do see your point. Now, obviously this year is a little bit different. Schedule's changed, although who knows how tough Oklahoma would have been. I don't really know. But the fact is that because of this schedule, there's no room for error, right? Like you can't lose a game. You might not even be able to have an ugly game because with that strength of schedule, they're going to be putting those stats next to each other and, strength of schedule next to these other teams that are up there and all that stuff. And I mean, I agree with you actually, but because of that, no room for error. Jessi, what do you think?
I was listening to ESPN Daily today, the podcast, and I can't remember how they got on the topic, but they're talking about the rankings and they're like, well, let's get to Alabama. And I was like, all right, everybody be quiet. And they start talking about how, Alabama seems to bring in the same caliber of talent as Georgia, but they just don't do anything with it like Georgia does. I was like, huh?
Have they not paid attention for the last 15 years?
What? I was like,
yeah, we should probably pump the brakes on that talk.
We literally played them in a natty. Someone had to lose. Also, we had a house there. What are you saying? We don't do anything with it like UGA does. I digress. I just had to get that out. But I'm a little bit on the same page as Matt here. I think the schedule is a little soft, but again, historically, they come out of it. They go into, the playoffs. They look and they beat people. So I'm not going to say that it means that, if they win all these games that they're not as good as they were last year. It's hard to say, but I do agree that once they get to Ole Miss, that's their first true test. I don't think anybody else is a true test for them until then. I think that game at Neyland is going to be nuts. And honestly, I hate both of you. And I hope everybody loses, but unfortunately, I don't think that's a possibility. So I will be watching and loving and living. But I think, as you said, you've got a solid receiver core. It's deep there. It doesn't matter. You're giving it to Brock Bowers. We all know you are. It's fine. And you should. You should absolutely give it to Brock Bowers. Another Heisman hopeful. I'm calling it preseason because he's incredible. He really is. You don't see a lot of tight ends that get to go to a Heisman. And I don't know that he will by the end of the season, but as of right now, he's impressive. And we'll see what happens. But that amount of hype and all of the stories coming out, can they three-peat? Can they three-peat? You can't listen to that. You truly cannot listen to that. You are not that same team. It is not the same team. You can have people back. You can have it all. It is not going to be the same season. It's not going to be the same season as it was the year before that. This is a fresh start. This is a fresh group of people, regardless of if they've been there together. Not everyone has, and it's a different dynamic. And you have to play each season as a new challenge and stop looking back with your rose-colored glasses and know that congrats, UGA. You finally got your natty. You were able to do it. You got 2. Wonderful. Focus on each game, each week, and stop looking at the end of the road because you're not there yet. You got to get over everything else. And when you focus on the end of the road and you don't focus on what's right in front of you, that's when you slip up and you lose to like a UAB.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely can't look ahead. And I've always been of the mind that, and I think Coach Kirby Smart would agree with this too. We just talked on the cell phone just a little bit ago, and he agreed with me that you have to prove people wrong on the field, right? So if people are going to talk about the schedule, all you can do is play your schedule and beat who's on your schedule. It was the same thing as when they were, saying UGA hasn't won a title since 1980. You know what? You're right. I have to prove you wrong on the field. There's nothing you can do about that. So you're exactly right. You're both exactly right about the schedule. They're just going to have to do their best.
Congrats to those schools. All right, UT Martin, good for you. Ball State, good for you. UAB, good for you.
Check.
Because
right.
You're getting a massive amount of money and exposure for your program. Good on you.
True. Absolutely. 100%. All right, let's move to Florida Gators. Last year, 6-7 overall, 3-5 in the SEC. Billy Napier's second year. Napier has named Graham Mertz, the Wisconsin transfer, as the starting quarterback. Jack Miller.
Wait, hold on. What happened to Anthony Rich? Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
He went to the NFL incredibly early.
Yeah. Although Indianapolis, right? Isn't that where he went?
Named the starter.
Yeah, I was gonna say he seems to be catching fire up there. Anyway.
No, he's not. I read an article the other day that said that the Colts are putting together a program on how not to develop a quarterback right now. That's what I read.
Time will tell, I guess. But Jack Miller seems to be the backup at this point. Neither of them are as mobile as Anthony Richardson, speaking of. However, so that portion of the game will be different. A receiving core should help as far as the running game goes. The Gators expect to be loaded with former Ragin' Cajun Montrell Johnson, Trevor Etienne, and Tulane transfer Cam Carroll. The defense seems to have the personnel, but how they perform under new co-DC Austin Armstrong, who came over from Southern Miss, remains to be seen. So this is another team with a lot of variables and question marks, so we will see how things start to trend. Will Billy Napier have a better second season at Florida? Jessi, let's start with you.
Hey, at the loss of Richardson, and let's be honest, we talked about it last year, and you can look at their record. It's not like Richardson did much for them, right? Like
that's why I was baffled that he went into the draft.
I was
like,
not only that, he was a first-round pick.
Yeah,
right.
He was like the number 3 quarterback off the board.
It was like
amazing at the combine. I was shocked. I liked him in his interviews. I thought he had a great attitude.
Yeah,
but he didn't do much there. Again, he didn't have a lot of weapons around him to do anything with.
Fair.
He didn't have a strong line to protect him. The defense, where were they? it wasn't a good recipe, but it's still not really a good recipe. And then you don't have a quarterback that everybody is talking about. So I don't know. Coach Napier has got to start making some moves, because the swamp is not a patient place. Those alumni, those boosters are not patient people. And it has been, at least in the past decade, a very embarrassing fall from grace for the Florida Gators. And right now they've got an uphill battle ahead of them. I don't know if Coach Napier is the guy to do it. I think he's an okay coach. I don't have anything against him, but I don't know that he is the guy that is going to take this program and flip it back around and make it into a dynasty that it used to be, which who knows how that happened. If you watch the documentary, watch the documentary.
But we know how it happened.
We know how it happened.
By the way, that documentary completely glossed over so much stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of NDAs.
Talk about anything.
I would imagine anybody with knowledge has an NDA.
I'm convinced that was put out by Urban Meyer just to make himself look good.
Oh, probably. I have no doubt. But yeah, the Florida Gators, it's so weird to talk about them as like a really terrible program right now, because that's what they are. They are not the Florida Gators of the early 2000s. And right now you look at that schedule, Tennessee, that's going to be tough. Kentucky, tough. Carolina, likely tough for them. Georgia, no chance. Arkansas is going to be tough. LSU is going to be tough. And this might be a time that Florida State's going to start being tough again. Oh, yeah. The swamp is it's going to be swampy. It's going to be a mess.
It doesn't start easy. They're at Utah, and that's going to be not easy either. Matt, what do you think?
I agree with Jessi. I think this is a Florida program that has definitely fallen from grace. I think they got rid of the one bright star they had last season. I think if Richardson was around, he would at least be a little bit of a leg up in some of these games. But man, it's going to be tough down there for a while. And I hate to see that. I really do. Yeah. It breaks my little heart to see to see Florida struggling. But I read an article the other day, and I can't remember who it was. It might have been an ESPN article, but they're projecting this to be one of Florida's worst seasons since the 1970s. Like when they went like 2-9 or something, or 2-8 or something like that. They're saying it's going to be really, really, really bad. Now let's remember, historically, Florida football, not good at all. The only reason Florida got good in the 80s and the 90s was because Steve Spurrier. And the only reason they continue to be good after Spurrier left, and let's remember, Ron Zook didn't do nothing for them. Neither did the other guy that took over for Urban Meyer. I forget his name.
McElwain.
Picture with the shark. Yes, McElwain. McElwain couldn't do much with him either. Urban Meyer came in for a couple of years and put together some of the greatest football teams we've ever seen come out of Florida.
So it's several criminals and
that too. And then Mullen, who I think we all can agree is a bit of a kook, but he's a heck of a football coach.
Forgot about Muschamp in the middle there too.
And Muschamp. And
that's right. Just a psychopath.
Wait,
who's at Georgia now?
It's hard to keep track of Muschamp because he flits around the SEC like a bird in a tree.
He's in a great spot.
He's in
DC,
Florida
co-DC right now.
He's all over the place. And I don't foresee this season ending well for Florida at all. Like Jessi said, Tennessee's going to be tough. Kentucky's going to be tough. Vanderbilt, maybe a toss-up. Who knows? It depends on how bad Vandy's going to be this year. Carolina's going to be tough. Georgia's no shot. I agree. I think Florida's in a really bad, precarious situation right now. And unless Napier can turn the wagons around, to steal a phrase from Drinky,
circle them up,
this isn't going to end well. And not saying Napier's seat's hot, but I'm thinking if he gets nuked by Georgia and then nuked by LSU and then nuked by Florida State, there are going to be a lot of people going, why'd we hire this guy?
He'll be their bridge guy to the next big hire that they're going to pay a lot of money for.
Yeah. I want to be kind, but they just really have a potential to be a dumpster fire this year.
Yeah. For sure.
And we've already identified the dumpster fire for the season, eh?
When you've also, I mean, let's be honest, the figuring out who is the QB has been pretty brutal, especially when you thought you had, one kid in the bag and he turns out to be, a criminal and things like that. We kind of forgot about that as well. So there's just been a lot going on down there and a lot of things to figure out. And that QB room has been rough. I feel bad for Napier. Obviously, I know he's getting paid a lot of money, but in terms of just the decisions he's had to make with the personnel that he's had, this might be just a case of like bad timing. Maybe, I don't know. I feel like if Richardson would have hung around, he would have had something to build on in that program. But he's kind of starting from scratch again. So it's like, I don't know. It's not looking good. So we'll see how that pans out.
I really hope
I'm-
none of
I'm
my
gonna-
classmates listen to this. They're gonna hate me.
I'm going to go ahead and go on a limb here, guys. I'm going to go ahead and say that Florida gets 4 wins this season.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't think they make a bowl game.
I think 4-8's what we're looking at. I think
Yeah.
they beat McNeese State. I think they beat Charlotte. I think they beat Vanderbilt. I think they end up sneaking up on Missouri. I think that's it.
And to your point, Jessi, none of this has to do with Florida academics, right? This is a complete
Yeah,
separation.
too bad I'm in like their sporting department and I, sorry. And
Well-
everybody ends every post with "Go Gators" and I literally can't do it.
Well, Masters is a little bit different, right? You don't have to be as gung ho and you don't have to clap sideways. And
Well,
I get it.
I did try to get some student tickets, but I forgot to do it because I'm not used to doing that. And
Yeah.
then by the time I looked like a week later, they were gone, and I was like, "Meh."
Right. Yeah. Well, maybe next
You're
time.
probably not going to see a lot down there anyway. So it's not like you're
No.
missing.
All right, let's get to the Auburn Tigers. Last year, 5-7 overall, 2-6 in the SEC. This is Hugh Freeze's first season. So many crazy topics here. Chief among them is the hire of Hugh Freeze, as we mentioned. Things seem to be forgiven, I guess, but we'll also see how he handles the spotlight of being a high-profile schools coach again. In terms of the gameplay, everything's expected to be better. Offense, defense, coaching, even the schedule is a little bit better this year. The main thing that will be controlling the turnover margin, and that starts with the quarterback. Peyton Thorne, transfer from Michigan State, has been named the starting quarterback. He brings a deep ball threat and possibilities for big plays. Robbie Ashford is still there, though, as well. So we'll see if he tries to compete for that job at some point again this season. Wide receivers seem to be solid, and they're hoping Jarquez Hunter and USF transfer Brian Batty will help things out in the running game. Philip Montgomery, former Tulsa head coach and Baylor offensive coordinator, comes in as OC, and he and Freeze together should make this offense something to watch. Freeze is known for his offenses. So Ron Roberts comes in from Baylor as DC, which means he was Dave Aranda's DC. So that says a little something about him. Transfer portal helped out the defensive line some, but the linebackers at secondary were already pretty solid, so expect the defense to be pretty good. So Auburn Tigers, Matt, what are your thoughts?
I like all the concepts about what Hugh Freeze did and the cell phones and all that. So let's put that on the back burner. Let's look at this from a strictly strategic situation. When we were on that podcast last week, Auburn was my pick to be a dark horse this year in the SEC. I think this is a team that if you get the right coach in there, they can do all kinds of crazy stuff. Also keep in mind that Hugh Freeze knows how to build a winning program. He did it at Ole Miss pretty rapidly, I think. I think within 2 or 3 seasons, they had turned into a pretty solid team. It was Ole Miss, right? Or was it Mississippi State?
It was Ole Miss.
Okay, I had a brain
That's
fart.
where I got in trouble.
And then not to mention the fact that after he got caught with the hookers and blow or whatever, all that stuff that was going on, he ended up at Liberty, who historically has never been competitive in football. And he started winning football games at Liberty with like just Joe Schmo off the street. So the guy can coach. Given the resources and given the situation at Auburn, I think this is a great situation for him. I think this is a good situation for the Tigers faithful. And I think that Auburn's going to see a little bit of a resurgence here. Now, does that mean they're going to beat Alabama this year? Probably not. Does that mean that they're going to compete in the West? Maybe. It just kind of depends. And when you look at the schedule, it's not that bad. UMass at Cal, which is going to be a bit of an iffy game because it's a West Coast game, but we'll see. By the way, does Auburn play Samford every other year? I feel like they always are playing Samford for some reason. and they get Georgia at home. That'll probably be a night game. I just, and then you look at the rest of the schedule. It's not that bad again until you get to around Bama and Ole Miss and all that. LSU's in there too. I think this is going to be a decent year for Auburn. Do they make it to the playoff? Nah. Do they compete in the SEC West and maybe get to the SEC championship game? Probably not. Will they surprise a couple people? Pretty sure they will.
Jessi, do you agree?
I agree that they have the opportunity to be decent, to start to get back to that. Of course, Auburn did that and upset so-and-so because that's what Auburn does. They have the chance to get back to it. Freeze, like you said, great offensive mind, sketchy human, great offensive mind. Maybe he went to Liberty and found Jesus. Who knows?
Him and Lane Kiffin probably hang out a lot.
Why did part of me be like, don't talk about Lane like that? Oh,
see, you've gotten infected. See, this is what happens.
It's happening. I think Coach Freeze has to make sure that he's identified the correct quarterback early on. And there can't be inconsistency, and there can't be, we'll just put him in a little bit. They've got to nail it down. And I disagree. I think their schedule in the middle is actually kind of tough. I think you look at in late September, they're going to Kyle Field. Kyle Field is not an easy place to play, even when A&M sucks. And they may be better at that point. I don't know. Georgia, tough. LSU, gonna be a test. Ole Miss, Freeze is going back to Ole Miss. That's gonna be so fun. Or not going back to it, but playing Ole Miss, I cannot wait to see that. Mississippi State, that's a question mark. Truly don't know. Vandy, easy. Arkansas, at Arkansas and Fayetteville, I don't think that's easy. New Mexico State, meh. Bama, they get to play us in Jordan-Hare, but not going to be easy. I think Auburn has the potential, if they're playing like they were last season, they lose to A&M, they lose to Georgia, they lose to LSU, Ole Miss, Arkansas, and Alabama. That's tough. If they've made progress and Hugh Freeze comes in there and does what he's expected to do, because it is expected, they paid a lot of money, they are expecting winners. But this is not an easy schedule by any stretch of the imagination. And I don't know, maybe Freeze starts sacrificing cell phones. Not sure.
If Hugh Freeze shows,
he needs to wear a sweater vest week 1.
I was going to say, if he shows up in a sweater vest,
absolutely have a visor. There is no doubt in my mind.
Oh yeah,
may have a sweater vest, but I think the sweater vest magic is used up, and I think, given his history, he burns cell phones.
Okay,
I'm gonna laugh when he wears one to the Bama game and beats Bama. I'm gonna laugh.
Bite your tongue. You bite your tongue.
I was going to say, I'm looking at, I don't see any history of him wearing a sweater vest. So if he shows up in one, that might be a problem.
Then we know it's a cult.
So right.
Then we confirmed for a fact that Auburn has some connection to the occult that is channeled through a sweater vest.
Through the sweater vest. That's right.
Honestly, though, a sweater vest it would be so miserably hot in Auburn in September. Oh my God.
I wore one the other day to work. I regretted it, but I wore one.
Do you work outside the whole time?
No.
But also just like walking from your car in like 100 degrees in Georgia, that couldn't have been fun. So anyway. All right, let's talk about the Arkansas Razorbacks. Last year, 7-6 overall, 3-5 in the SEC. This is Sam Pittman's 4th year. Arkansas is hoping to forget last year, which saw a tough schedule and not helping themselves by losing a few games they probably should have won. But this is a new year, and things are looking bright because quarterback KJ Jefferson and running back Raheem Sanders are still around. So add that to an O-line that will almost always be solid thanks to Sam Pittman, and things are looking up. The defense was dead last in the SEC last year in yards allowed and gave up over 30 points a game. So not really characteristic of Arkansas, what I think of anyway, at least recently. So that'll have to improve. And some of the more experienced players and some of the transfer portal players have Arkansas fans hoping that they can do just that they can be excited about that. So after a bit of a step back last season, can Sam Pittman get back to surprising people? Jessi, what do you think?
I think there's enough experience on the team that I'm hoping they can. This is an Arkansas team I'm excited to watch. Like you mentioned, you've got KJ Jefferson coming back. He's gritty. He's got moxie. He's willing to lay his body on the line for his team. I really enjoy watching him. You also mentioned they have Raheem Sanders coming back. So this is a team that's got some talent that played last year. They were gritty. They were disappointed. And maybe that disappointment comes through and pushes them to be a little bit better. I hope so. I think the beginning of their schedule, first 3 games, easy peasy, but then they go to Death Valley, not an easy place. They do get A&M at home, which will help. They got to travel to Oxford. They got to travel to Tuscaloosa. They traveled to the Swamp. And then they end out with Auburn, Florida International, and Missouri all at home. So I think they can make a bowl game, but that one little stretch, end of September, beginning of October, is going to be really tough, and it's going to test them and see how much they've grown, and if they're able to kind of make adjustments from last year and start to really be the premier program that for a while they were back in the early 2000s. When, rest in peace, but when Ryan Mallett was there, that was also a wild thing that we saw this summer with his passing. So I'm excited to watch the Razorbacks. I think Pittman's obviously safe in his job. I don't think he's going anywhere. And it will be very interesting to have Bobby Petrino playing against them again now that he's at A&M.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Matt, what do you think about Arkansas and their outlook this year?
I think Arkansas is going to be okay. I think Jesse's right. You're going to have a couple really tough games at LSU, playing A&M at home, going to Ole Miss, going to Bama. Those are going to be tough matchups for Arkansas. But Arkansas over the last couple of seasons has shown us that if they find an angle, they can find a way to beat some teams that they probably shouldn't have any business beating. Let's not forget that Pittman's only 2 years after that big, really fantastic run that he had with his Arkansas squad 2 years ago. I mean, they were beating people they had no business getting anywhere close to. And I remember on here, we talked about the fact that they had hired him from Georgia. We were like, what'd you hire an O-line coach for? He's not even a coordinator, for God's sake. But it's worked out well for them. I think Pittman is the West version of Mark Stoops. And I think that he's in a situation where he can continue to bring in talent. He can continue to win some ball games. Is he going to compete for the SEC West title? Probably not. Is he going to surprise some folks occasionally? Yeah, I think he is. And I think it's a situation where Pittman's probably just quite as content as he can be playing that. He'll probably be there for quite some time. As far as the season goes, I think Jesse's right. I think, Arkansas gets to a decent bowl game. But I don't foresee them really making much of a claim on the SEC West this year.
Yeah, but KJ Jefferson has to do well because he's going to go to the draft at the end of the season,
right?
And they've got to do something so that his draft stock is high. I think it will be regardless, because I think teams are going to look and see his grit. I've been saying it the whole time that he's played at Arkansas. He's gritty. And I hope he gets drafted by somebody that actually uses him, not in the first year. He needs to sit behind somebody and learn, looking at you, Colts. But eventually.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Arkansas's season is going to hinge off how KJ Jefferson does. If he comes out and he lights it up, then they've got a good chance of beating some people they shouldn't beat. If he comes in and struggles or gets injured, it's not going to end well.
That defense got to step up.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It step up early. They were historically where it was like, that first half you're watching, you're like, okay, we're letting these people score. And then they'd start to clean it up a little bit. You got to start strong.
Yeah, well, they definitely have a lot of the personnel in place, especially returning players like Jefferson, and whatever NFL team gets him, in my opinion, is lucky with his work ethic and just kind of disregard for himself sometimes as well. So, all right, let's move to the final team we're going to talk about, and that is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Last year, 11-2 overall, 6-2 in the SEC. Nick Saban's 17th year. With Bryce Young gone, looks like the quarterback battle will be between Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, and Notre Dame transfer Tyler Buckner. Receiving core should be really good with the top 2 receivers, Jermaine Burton and Ja'Cory Brooks, returning. Line seems to be good, but young. Returning game running game, sorry, also will be solid with Jace McClellan, Roydell Williams, and superstar freshman Justice Haynes getting up to speed. On the defensive side of the ball, it's hard to replace Will Anderson, but Bama's defense should continue to be solid. So, Matt, let's start with you, and then we'll let Jessi have the last word on her team. What you got?
Listen, Nick's bought some big retirement home. This is it. He's hanging it up after this season.
Stop.
I'm going to go ahead and call it right now. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Bama wins the SEC West. Okay. They find a way to beat LSU. They make it to the SEC championship game. They beat Georgia by a field goal. They go to the national championship. They lose the national championship to Ohio State. And Nick decides to roll off into the sunset.
Was that why he was smiling
the end of the era
at media days? Because he's like, I get to retire.
He's done.
Rebuke
He's done.
all of that you said after winning the SEC
You-
West and beating Georgia. I rebuke everything after that.
You can rebuke it all you want in the name of every god, both the old and the new, but it doesn't negate the fact that the man just spent like $16 million on a brand new retirement home. He's done. Miss Terry told him, listen, you're done. We got to go find something else. I need to go sit on the beach. We're finished. This is it. The end. The tyranny finally stops this season.
You think he would leave after not winning a natty, getting all the way there and not winning?
He's tired. Look at the man. You can tell he's exhausted. He's ready to call it a game. He's ready. It's time.
Was that your main
It's
point
gonna
about the Tide, Matt? Or?
Well, that and the fact that when you look at the schedule, they've got they got some matchups here that may give them a little bit of trouble. I'm going to be very curious to see what that Texas game looks like, because that Texas game last year was a corker. And it's a night game.
I'm already sweating.
It's going to be interesting. They do have to go to Kyle Field, which is always kind of iffy, like we've been saying all evening. They got to go to Kentucky. I don't see Kentucky beating them. Just in that Auburn game at the end of the season, I think that's going to tell a lot about what's going to happen with this Bama squad, as far as that goes. But yeah, that's kind of my read. I think Bama competes and beats who they need to beat. And I think they're going to end up winning the SEC West.
All right, Jessi,
Mouth to God's ears.
tell us how you're feeling and tell us who you think's going to start at QB.
The QB situation is interesting. I've been following it, and as you guys know, when Bryce went out and Jalen Milroe came in, I was optimistic. I thought he was going to be, decent, and he has raw talent. He truly does. The issue is he gets flustered easily, and it showed. It absolutely showed. He would make a little bit of a mistake, and then it was just like a snowball effect. Thank God Bryce Young came back, but he's got to mature, and he's got to be able to be almost like Bryce, where you just can't even tell that it's bothering him, and we didn't see that last year. So I'm hoping in the offseason, he's been able to kind of temper that a little bit, maybe watch Bryce towards the end of the season, learn from him, and pick up some of what he was laying down. But yeah, I don't know. Everyone, from what I've seen, a lot of places and a lot of people are saying that Ty Simpson's not someone to sleep on. While he has not had as much, really any playing time, even though Jalen Milroe has, he's still got a lot of talent as well. And let's not forget that we also have Tyler Buckner, who's coming in as a transfer. So this is the first time I feel like since, after 2-26, where we were like, will Jalen or Tua start? This is honestly a bigger question mark than that. And it's the first time I truly feel like we've had a quarterback competition in years. We've always known going into a season who it's going to be. And I truly don't. I think Saban might start Jalen Milroe just because he does have a little bit of that experience. But I think given that we're playing, Middle Tennessee, that we're going to start to see maybe 2, maybe 3 of these guys come into the game and start to play it out. I'm really interested to see who it's going to be, but we've got to make a decision and we've got to stick with it. It's the same as it is with any school. You can't just flip in and out. We've got to pick someone. It's got to be a strong leader. It's got to be someone that's consistent and someone who does not get flustered and is able to really come in and take command of the game. There's a lot of expectations. There's a lot of pressure. And sure, we are ranked number 4 and we are mad. We are embarrassed and we need to do something about it. We had an underwhelming into our season, and our offensive line has got to play much better. We surrendered 167 tackles for loss and 63 sacks the past 2 seasons combined. That is historically unacceptable for Alabama. That used to be known as a defensive powerhouse, and the offense also offensive powerhouse. So the Tide, we have not gone 2 years without a division title since 2010-11. And in that year, we lost to LSU. They went and were the West, and that obviously happened again this past year. And after that, we won in the BCS championship game, and we beat LSU in that. So we've got to do better. We've got some guys coming back. I'm confident in them, and I think everything really hinges on the quarterback situation. But we're mad. Nick Saban is smiling, which means everybody should be terrified. I am terrified. And the Texas game is going to be a great idea of where we're sitting at. And thank God it is in Tuscaloosa. Thank God so many of these games are in Tuscaloosa. I tried to see if I could make it to the Texas game, because I was like, 7 p.m. It's a night game in Bryant-Denny. All the red lights are going to be there. It's going to be amazing. I am not in that tax bracket. I cannot go.
No doubt.
It's not even the tickets that are the problem. I would splurge on those tickets, okay? Or even I'd forgo the tickets and I'd just go to my favorite bar and watch it. I can't afford to stay in Tuscaloosa. Everything is like $1,800 a night, and it's an hour away.
That's insane.
Send help.
That is insane.
That gummit Texas boosters stopped buying up and renting all of the properties that night.
And they're going to come out in boatloads for that game, because they're going to want revenge for what happened last year in Texas.
It's like, it's like trying to get tickets or parking for a Taylor Swift concert. Good grief.
Seriously. It is not easy.
So that Middle Tennessee State game this Saturday, meh. The Texas game, I'm really excited to watch that one, because we saw how that was last year, like y'all both mentioned. I think we're going to get a good idea of kind of where both of those programs are. So
I'm already unwell.
Yeah. All right.
By the way, I just to comment on Jessi's thing. Imagine being upset that you've been put fourth in the nation. Imagine.
Well, and what was it? Not representing the division for 2 years in a row, and I can only imagine how you must have felt.
Honestly, all of it, because again, hearing like ESPN Daily be like, "Oh, they're not in the top 3 this year," I was like, "Good,
yeah,
I don't want to be
where you want to be.
I want to be out of it. I want us so mad and embarrassed."
You better go ahead, but you better buckle up, because you're going to be out of it next year when they bring in Dabo Sweeney to be your new head coach.
Stop it. I'm against it now, because he doesn't take advantage of the transfer portal. He doesn't do he doesn't do anything. Keep him in Clemson.
Dabo's going to come in and keep the ball rolling.
I literally cannot.
Or maybe Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen will be ready for a new job then.
Stop. That's not even funny.
Or what about Crazy Eyes at Carolina and Florida?
We are not getting Will Muschamp.
Listen, if he can get, if it's probably like Thanos with the Infinity Rings. Maybe if Will Muschamp can get enough of trips to SEC schools as a head coach, maybe he unlocks a power to make everybody disappear. That would be hilarious.
Absolutely not.
Oh my God, I would die.
Nope. I hope Bush Jones comes back to you.
No way. Oh, we were having a good time. You went
At that point, it got personal.
It got personal. I mean, honestly, here's my other thing. He's not retiring. I'm rebuking that. But in 10 years, when he retires,
he'll be dead in 5?
I was going to say, he's for real, going to be in his early 80s in 10 years.
But hear this out. What if we got Lane back?
Oh, don't do that to me. I've actually gotten to the point where I don't mind Lane.
What if
I just don't know if his vibe fits with Tuscaloosa. I just don't.
It doesn't fit. It does not fit with Nick Saban Tuscaloosa. You are correct. But if he were at the helm,
I don't know.
I'm just saying. I'm not planning for it, because we have years with Nick. But just thought.
Let's say we will eventually one day find out what that will look like. But It's just win.
No,
It's just win. Or, he may coach till he's 90. Who knows?
I can only hope.
I mean, Bobby Bowden did it till he was what, 86, 88?
He was up there, yeah.
Frail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that does it for all the teams and their kind of off-season maneuvers. Let's go ahead and do a very quick speed round. Speed round. All right. So, we've talked a little bit about conference realignment, and we did mention it on the Sports Town podcast that we were guests on not long ago. But where will the 4 remaining Pac-12 schools, that's Cal, Oregon State, Stanford, and Washington State, go? Jessi, let's start with you. Where are they going?
I think they have to go Mountain West. I don't think ACC accepts them. It doesn't benefit the ACC in any way to get them. It actually ends up costing them money because they're going to have to divvy up their portion of proceeds to more schools. It also sucks to have to travel from literally the East Coast all the way to the West Coast. And I don't think going independent helps them. It hurts their recruiting, honestly. So to me, they've got to go Mountain West. And if you want to listen to all of the ramifications legally that got us here and where we potentially could go, like Wes mentioned, listen to the Sports Town podcast that we were on. We talked about a little bit of those antitrust legalities, and I'm always more than happy to chat through it with anybody that cares about that kind of stuff.
Matt?
I agree. I think you have to go Mountain West. I really don't foresee any other conference that could hold those 4 teams. Let's remember, these are 4 teams that have a pretty storied tradition when it comes to college football in this country. I feel like they'd have to go to the Mountain West because the Mountain West is the only conference that's that close geographically that actually makes sense. The ACC is too far. The Big Ten, I don't know why you'd bother picking up Oregon and a couple others when leave those 4 off. So I don't think it'll be that route. And then can you name a conference outside of those? Maybe the Big 12? Kind of iffy there. So yeah, I think Mountain West is probably your best bet. Because I mean, you got some decent teams in the Mountain West.
Mm-hmm.
I think Utah's a Mountain West team, aren't they?
Utah.
They might have jumped.
I know Air Force is in the Mountain West. I think Colorado is in the Mountain West, aren't they?
Colorado left.
Utah is current Pac-12.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, are they? I can't keep track of
So
West Coast teams. I'm usually in bed by the time they play.
I know, right? Pac-12 after dark. I understand. So I'm gonna take it in a completely different direction, and I'm gonna go back on what I said on the podcast. I'm gonna say they're gonna lure some quote unquote lesser teams, and they're gonna keep the Pac-12 or Pac-10 or whatever it is at that point.
Stop naming it after numbers, people. It doesn't work.
I know, right? It doesn't work.
But call it the Pacific Conference and call it a day.
They're gonna piecemeal it back together. Maybe not teams that they are really enthusiastic about, but it's going to be something to keep the conference there.
Like raid the Mountain West.
Maybe. I mean, and like JJ was saying, maybe even lure some of these. Maybe flip some schools to D1 that weren't before. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
They've got to do something. They have got to make up for that revenue. Otherwise, they're going to have to start cutting other sports.
Right. Yeah. And, I say it's a shame because it's been kind of a staple for many, many years. And it is a shame to watch these conferences go by the wayside, but I guess it's inevitable when you kind of look in the grand scheme of things.
I'm sure they said the same thing when the Southwest folded a couple,
Yeah. 90, what was that? 96?
In the Metro Conference and all. Like, conferences are going to ebb and flow. It's just the problem is that everybody wants to be in the Big Ten, the SEC, and that's it.
Problem is going to be when we start getting lawsuits, and then I'm really going to be excited.
I know Jessie's going to be glued to the TV on those.
I'm going to be watching C-SPAN like nobody's business.
Show me courtroom scenes. Come on. All right. So, next speed round question. Will Auburn get back to a bowl game this year? They missed it by 1 game last year. Did they get the bowl game this year? Under Freeze's first year. Matt, let's start with you.
Yeah.
You're both nodding.
I don't see why they wouldn't. Let's remember again, like I said, when we were talking about Auburn a minute ago, Hugh Freeze is not a bad football coach. And there are lots of resources in Auburn. There's no reason not to make it back to a bowl game. Will they get there in year 1? I think so, but I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't.
Jessi?
I think they get there in year one. I really do. I think if Freeze does what he's expected to do, and he kind of has to, like I said, they're not a patient group down there. He's got to do something. He's going to be excited to be back in the SEC. And I think they're going to trip maybe a few people up, hopefully not Bama. And I think they get there.
Yeah, I was looking at the schedule. I don't think it's going to be a pretty season by any means, but I think they find 6 wins. I think
Auburn's going to Auburn.
Yeah. All right. True or false? This is the final question in the speed round. True or false? At some point, Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino will get into an on-the-field verbal altercation during a game in front of everyone at some point this season. True or false, Jessi? What you got?
True. But also part of me thinks that because they're both really morally corrupt people and sketchy as hell, that they're going to be besties. It's going to be like stepbrothers. It's literally going to be like stepbrothers. They hate each other at first and they're yelling. And then they're like, did we just become best friends? Bobby Petrino and Jimbo Fisher are the new stepbrothers.
And the new stepbrothers.
There's so much room for activity in Texas.
We need the Photoshop of their faces.
We do need
stepbrothers.
I will have Matthew get on it.
Does that mean that they're going to go riding motorcycles together? Because that didn't end so well last time Petrino did it.
Don't even get into the drum set.
They're going to make it to like 4-wheelers now, just to be a little safer.
Okay. 4-wheelers. Okay. That's 4-wheelers ain't very safe.
No.
I don't foresee. I think you're going to have a pretty special situation for them to nuke each other on the field. I'm sure that they've already gotten into a yelling match behind closed doors. I just don't know if I see it happening in public when they know that there's already going to be a microscope on them. So I'm going to say no, just to be different.
Do y'all remember when I think was it Dan Mullen and Todd Grantham were going at it on the sidelines? I'm getting those same kind of vibes, and I'm going to go true. It's going to happen. There's just too much personality there for it not to happen at some point.
Be a fly on the wall. Did you touch my drum set? I'm telling you. Oh my God, please dub over that somebody and just so I can watch it.
It's going to happen. All right. Well, we've talked a lot about the teams. Let's talk about the upcoming games and make our predictions.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
All right. Well, the first game coming up this week is Thursday, August the 31st at 8 o'clock on SEC Network. And that is South Dakota at Missouri. Let's just go with Matt. We'll start with you first. What is your pick, South Dakota at Missouri?
I think Missouri wins this game. I'm going to say Mizzou wins 28-10.
Okay. Yeah, I'm also going to go Mizzou with this one. I'm going to go 42-3. Jessi, who you got?
I'm picking the Tigers in this one as well, and I'm going Mizzou 31-13.
Okay. By the way, I will make the pick'em sheet, and as last year, $100 up for grabs at the end of the season for whoever's in the lead.
Who won last year? Is that US? Did you
Wes.
win?
It was me.
Wes paid himself.
Yeah, it was great.
Here you go, Wes. Thank you, Wes.
I did go to the bank, get $100 out just so I could hand it over to myself. So, all right, next, Florida, Utah, Thursday, also at 8 o'clock on ESPN. Matt, what you got?
This is a tough one because again, Florida's so nebulous. We don't know if Florida's going to be good. We don't know if they're going to be awful. I'm going to go ahead and say Utah wins this thing. And I think it's because last year's game between these two came down to the wire, if I remember correctly. And I think Florida's just going to not have enough to keep up. So I'm going to say Utah wins this thing 35-28.
Yeah, Florida won last year, but just too many question marks this year, I think. And it's at Utah.
Yeah.
I know Utah has question marks of their own at quarterback, but I think they win. I'm going to 27-21. Jessi?
I hate to do it, but I too am picking Utah here. I think Florida's got way too many question marks, way too many holes, and playing in a different time zone, not a lot of oxygen, way different levels of elevation. I'm picking Utah. I'm picking it closer. I think it's going to be 28-24.
Okay. All right, next is Ball State at Kentucky. This is Saturday, September the 2nd at noon on SEC Network. Matt, what's your prediction?
I don't foresee Kentucky having issues here, but I'm going to say a late touchdown makes it look closer than it is. So UK wins 30-20.
Okay. Yeah, I see Devin Leary air it out and Ray Davis enjoying some success on the ground. I've got Kentucky 38-13. Jessi?
I'm picking the Wildcats here too. I think it's going to be a big one, 35-10.
All right. Next, Virginia at Tennessee, noon on ABC from Nissan Stadium in Nashville.
While
Matt,
Nissan's still there.
right? Yeah, that's true. Matt, what's your prediction there?
Way back up. What do you mean while Nissan's still there?
They're building a new stadium.
Oh, okay.
Really nice one.
Didn't they just build Nissan like 5 years ago? It's relatively
It's been there a while. Yeah, it was there when I was in college, but they're building a beautiful facility.
I don't pay attention.
They're doing a lot of construction on stadiums up there in Nashville.
They do.
Yeah. Looking at you, Vanderbilt. I like Tennessee's chances here. I think Virginia's going to be coming off a little bit of a high. You know, they had that shooting at Virginia last year where a couple of football players got killed. I think that's going to play into matters. However, I think Tennessee's offense is just going to be too prolific. I think we're going to see the start of what's going to be a great season offensively for Tennessee. So I'm going to say Tennessee wins this thing 45-14. No, I'm sorry, 45-24. There we go.
Yeah. No, you're good. I'm saying the Vol offense rolls in this one as well. I'm going 45-14. Jessi?
I'm going to pick the Vols in this one as well. I think they're going to start out a little bit slower. It's going to be closer in the first quarter, maybe beginning of second quarter, while they're still trying to work out some kinks, get used to being under Milton. But then they roll it out. So I'm going to pick UT 38-21.
All right. Next is Mercer at Ole Miss. That's 2 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Matt, your prediction?
Local school for us with Mercer playing Ole Miss. And I seem to remember last year Mercer's football team won 7 games, I think, in their conference. And I think they played Alabama last year too at Alabama, didn't they, Jessi? Was that last year or year before? I know they played Bama at some point. It doesn't really matter because Ole Miss is going to win this ball game. I'm going to say Ole Miss rolls 48-10.
Yeah, we love our local Mercer Bears, but Ole Miss has got this one under control. Ole Miss winning this one 42-14. Jessi?
Yeah, great lawyers there. Really great school. Unfortunately, lawyers don't necessarily win football games. So I am going to pick Ole Miss, and I think it's going to be a big one. It's not going to be a fun one. If you're a Mercer Bear, it's really hot. It's not going to be fun to watch. Picking Ole Miss 42-6.
All right. Then we have UMass at Auburn. Matt, what's your prediction for that one? That is 3:30 on ESPN.
The Hugh Freeze there at Auburn kicks off with a bang. I'm going to say Auburn wins 38-10.
Okay, yeah, Auburn wins comfortably for me, but they don't cover the spread. I'm going 35-10. Jessi?
Yep, same here. I think the Tigers are going to do it justice. They're going to come out with a W, and I'm picking them 31-10.
All right. Western Carolina at Arkansas, 4:00 on ESPN Plus. Matt, who you got?
I just don't see Western Carolina be able to hang. Western Carolina, Mercer, I think, if I remember correctly, are in the same conference in football, which is the Southern Conference, and both teams, I think, had a Midland season last year. So I'm going to say Arkansas rolls in this thing 28-30.
Yeah, I definitely am going with them rolling. I'm going to say Arkansas 52-0 on this one.
Holy cannoli.
You mixed up one of the Alabama scores with that one. What are you doing?
Did I?
Wrong thing on the spot.
I'm kidding. I'm typing. I was just saying I'm talking while I'm typing, so I could have been wrong for all I know. So.
No.
Anyway.
I would love that for them. That'd be lovely. I'm not quite as confident as 52-0, but I am going to pick the Razorbacks in a big win, 31-6.
All right. Next is Southeast Louisiana at Mississippi State, 4:00 on SEC Network. Matt, who do you have in that one?
Well, first off, I want to point out that we missed our directional school call out because we totally blew right by that with Western Kentucky. But Southeast Louisiana is not going to be able to hang here. So I'm going to say Mississippi State's win 35-13.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Mississippi State pretty big here as well. 41-3. Jessi, who you got?
I am very excited to see whatever tribute video they have for Mike Leach when this game plays. And I hope they pull all of the quotes for it and don't just make it like emotional.
Right.
I want some good press conference quote. I want it all. But I am going to pick the Bulldogs. However, I do think there's going to be some growing pains here. They're going to pull it out. There's no doubt in my mind, but I don't think it's going to be like the biggest, 50 burger here. I think it's going to be a 28-3.
By the
All
way,
right.
if we manage to get through the first couple weeks without there being a pirate flag raised
There better be.
somewhere above Razorback Stadium, like I feel like that's a missed opportunity. So I feel like that needs to be something that becomes part of the team identity.
I want
I
pirate
think.
flags on the helmets or the uniforms. I want a patch.
That
Something, yeah, 100%. All right. Next is UT Martin at Georgia, 6:00 on ESPN Plus. Matt, what's your score prediction there?
big nasty win for the Bulldogs here, 48-3.
Okay, yeah, I've got basically the same. Georgia 52-0. Jessi?
This one's not even fun. 52 to UGA.
Nice. All right, next is New Mexico at Texas A&M, 7:00 on ESPN. Matt, who you got there?
I don't know if I'm sold on this new and improved A&M offense. So I'm going to say they're going to come out a little bit slow here in this tune-up game. I'm going to say they win 27-3.
Yeah. Again, and so I'm going to go with A&M 38-10. Again, they win, but they don't cover the spread. However, I think they do look better on offense than they did last year. So, Jessi, who you got?
I'm going to pick the Aggies here. I agree with Matt. I'm not fully confident yet. There's going to be some growing pains here as well. And I'm going to pick them, but there's going to be a lot of field goals, y'all. A lot of field goals. I'm picking Texas A&M 23-6.
All right. Next is Alabama A&M at Vanderbilt, 7:00 on ESPN Plus. Matt, what's your score prediction there?
Vanderbilt didn't impress me in their game against Hawaii this past weekend, so I think they win. I think they find a way, but I don't think it's going to be pretty. I think Vandy wins 2017.
Okay. I'm going to take a little bit different approach. I would say Vandy kind of gets back to what we think they should be at this point. Vandy wins 35-7. Jessi?
Hopefully they don't have a crane holding their scoreboard, but
Ooh.
I'm going to pick Vandy here. I'm in a very similar vein as Matt. I'm picking up 21-17.
Okay. All right, next, Middle Tennessee at Alabama, 7:30 on SEC Network. Matt, your score prediction?
138-10. I'm leaving that. I'm leaving it.
I love that so much.
Do it.
Go ahead. No, really,
Okay.
it's gonna be like 56-0 or something, 56-3.
Okay.
Like
yeah, I'm going with Bama 45-7. Jessi?
Gonna be interesting just because I want to see who starts at quarterback and who comes in the second quarter, who comes in the third, hell, who comes in the fourth. I'm gonna pick the Tide, obviously, 52-6.
Jesse's gonna be so pissed when Bama wins this game like 17-10.
Oh my God, y'all will need to check on this. You will need to do a wellness check in person.
Oh my God, I'm waiting, Jessi. It's coming at some point. You can't stay on top forever.
You know
I know.
how
You can't.
inevitably there's like a game or two, where we text the group and Jesse's just radio silent for a good while. I think it's not going to be this one, but I'm going to say that Texas the following week might be. I'm not saying Bama's going to lose, but I'm saying it might be a little bit closer. So
y'all will not hear from me. It may be a whole week. I don't know. It depends how it goes. Yes, I'm aware that I let stranger 18 to 22-year-old men that I've never met and I wear their work uniform on weekends control my emotional stability. I understand. Okay. But I'm sticking with it.
But part of it is recognizing that, right? So
yep.
Yeah. First step to fixing a problem is admitting you have a problem.
I ain't gonna fix it. I'm just admitting it.
We've just gotten that far. We'll figure that out later. So
right.
All All right. So next, North Carolina versus South Carolina, 7:30 on ABC from Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. Matt, what is your prediction there?
I really want to pick North Carolina here. I really wish I'd done a little bit of research and looked at how North Carolina did last season. But I think they were Midland in the ACC, so I'm gonna say they keep it close and probably score late to make it look closer than it is. But I'm gonna pick Carolina here, 28-24.
Okay. Yeah, it's a fun in-state game with North Carolina being ranked number 21 in the AP. UNC is slightly favored, but I'm going to go with South Carolina pulling off the upset, I guess. I mean, it's a slight favor, but still it would be an upset. And starting the season in a big way by beating UNC 34-31 in the Duke's Mayo Classic. There you go. Jessi, what's your call?
Almost doesn't have a classic.
They don't need it. They don't have to get gimmicky crap because they make good mayonnaise. Go ahead.
I think this is going to be a good challenge for South Carolina to start the season. Like we said, North Carolina is not something to snooze on. They just barely lost, I believe it's the Holiday Bowl, but barely lost the bowl game to Oregon and are not bad. They're favored to win, but I am going to pick the Gamecocks in this one. If Spencer Rattler can do what he's supposed to do, then they'll be okay, but it's going to be a close one. So I'm picking the Gamecocks 21-17.
All right. Well, in the final game, which is LSU versus Florida State, and this is on Sunday, I believe, 7:30 on ABC from Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida. Matt, what is your prediction in LSU versus Florida State?
Man, part of me wants to pick FSU just because I have a soft spot in FSU from a really long time ago because growing up, Bobby Bowden was like one of my favorite coaches of all time. But I just think LSU finds a way to get this thing done. I'm going to say it's exceptionally close. I think this is a really close finish at the very last second. I'm going to say LSU wins this thing 28-27.
All right. Yeah. I mean, AP top 10 matchup right off the bat with LSU being number 5 and Florida State being number 8. This one's also supposed to be a close one. I'm going to say the maturity and experience of Jaden Daniels ultimately wins the day. I got LSU 31-28. Jessi, what do you think?
And it's not just because I'm a bitter Bama fan. I mean, I am, but this isn't the reason for it. I might be just letting all of the dark horse hype of FSU get to me, but I think LSU very confident making it first year with Brian Kelly into the SEC championship. I think there's just a little overconfidence maybe going into this, and FSU is starting to really buy into what they're doing down there. I think it's a close, but I think it's an upset. I think FSU takes this one. The Seminoles are going to win 28-27.
Yeah, that's the pick I wanted to make, but
yeah,
I'm just too chicken.
And it's going to piss off LSU, and then they're going to, come back after that game. It's going to be that little fluke at the beginning of the season. Then they'll hit their stride potentially. Right. But I don't know.
Jessi's going to get nuked in the comments again.
Oh yeah, everyone's going to be mad. It's fine.
It is what it is, I guess, at this point. So, hey, we're done talking about the predictions and the summaries of the summers, and now all that's left is for them to play the games. So pretty excited about that. So thanks for listening to episode 1 of season 7. If you would like to contact us, please, we are on TikTok at Pigskins and Pageantry, Instagram also at Pigskins and Pageantry, Facebook at Pigskins and Pageantry, and we are on X at PPSEC Podcast. It's the
Stop
first time
screwing
I've
with
ever,
things, Elon, you jerkweed.
first time I've ever referred to it as such on the air. So
I know I keep looking at it and thinking I have some sort of dirty app on my phone, but it's just Twitter.
Especially when the little icon actually looks physically dirty itself on the screen.
I'm
You're
just
like, wait a second.
Who downloaded this? I've been hacked. Then I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just Twitter.
Yeah. Exactly. Don't forget we're available for download on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, TuneIn Radio, most podcasting apps for iPhone, Android, and other operating systems. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment, subscribe, and review 5 stars. We would greatly appreciate that. So, college football is back. Until next week, this is Wes. Go Dogs.
Y'all, if you want to talk about antitrust law and what is happening with these conferences, please feel free to message me, and I will gladly chat through it for hours on end. If you need somebody to help put you to sleep, I got you. Roll Tide, y'all. Nick Saban forever and ever and ever.
or at least until January next year. Remember, guys, beat Virginia. Go Vols.